Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you're able to tune in to this featured member conversation. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by April's featured member, APA qualified accredited member, Sue Stinchcomb. Hi, how are you? How's things?
Thanks. All right.
Good.
Yeah.
Welcome to the episode. I'm really delighted that we're able to have this conversation and feature you for this month. And for those that don't know, we'll get to an introduction on Sue in a second. But all of the featured members that have come up for this year are linked to either panel conversations that have been recorded, or in conversations with, or topics that are specific to the featured member. So this isn't just a standalone pick a name out of the hat situation. Everyone that we will feature in 2021 will have a connection to other conversations. So let's give everyone a chance to get to know you a little bit, and what it is that you do, but also what got you into the work that you do. Let's start there.
Okay, so I used to work for Headway, the Brain Injury Association, and during the course of that work, I used to support people after acquired brain injury, so things like stroke, brain hemorrhage, aneurysms, road traffic accidents, stuff like that. So in the course of that work, I found that people wanted to talk about their experiences, and they found that really valuable. And I just thought to myself, I wonder whether having some counselling skills would help me in this work. And so I went and did a 10-week introductory course at my local college.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that the skills did help. So I carried on and did my level 3 and my level 4, level 5, and
the bug just took hold.
I'm afraid so. Yeah.
So what do you do now?
Okay, so now I'm a counsellor, psychotherapist in private practice. I also manage a charities counselling service as well. And I do some work with young people for another agency, so high school age. Yeah, so that's what I do now.
And the bug that took hold, why do you think that was so strong for you?
I've always been really interested in people, and understanding and helping people to kind of find understanding of and empowerment as well. Helping people to make the best of themselves and their situation as well. So that was kind of probably in there, with wanting to facilitate people's recovery. Really.
And when you're working with someone who is physically impacted, understanding the emotional connection and the psychological connection to that recovery, we've spoken on conversation episodes before about how important it is for that balance to be in place. And when you can facilitate that connectivity between those three elements, the recovery can be astonishingly quick, can't it?
Oh yeah, it definitely can, because people naturally when they're impaired kind of in any area, whether it's mentally, emotionally or physically, it impacts on the other parts of them as well. So, you know, if you can begin to work with one, then it does have a knock-on effect to the other areas of your life. So yeah.
And I think it must be about sort of 2.5 years since we first met, if not a bit longer, because you were one of the first people to come to an A&A retreat. And what was that like for you? I mean, it was very, it was a very different kind of offering to what had been in place at the time. So, what's your takeaway from that?
It was a great experience. It was a great weekend. I met some really interesting people, and I suppose I was taken with the new ideas that you had that were on offer, that kind of, I suppose, nurturing of the membership and the ideas around, you know, how to do that and how to do things slightly differently, you know, in the world of supporting us counsellors and psychotherapists and people who work in this industry.
And, you know, it's for anyone kind of putting on retreats, putting on events, it ain't easy. But the sheer amount of fun that was had at those events, I think, is something that's certainly going to live with me for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And the spontaneity and the creativity that was available in that particular retreat was phenomenal. I mean, we developed a whole package on the back of that work, and that was great. And I'm really grateful that, you know, the contributions that everyone made, but, you know, you were part of that too. So, you know, an extra special thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And, you know, we were talking just before we came on air, but the reason why we've wanted to develop the featured member in collaboration with other conversations, and your featured member kind of selection, if you like, after, you know, I think probably about 3 weeks of conversations within the exec, was around the parallel working conversation that was had in a panel conversation, because you've had what can only describe as a horrific experience over the last year. The vast majority of people can only guesstimate what that's done. So I don't want to lead this too much, but I'd like you to share what you're comfortable about your experience over the last year.
Yeah, so I caught COVID-19 just before we locked down the first time. Yeah.
Really early on.
Yeah. I mean, I was so surprised. I started off with, I thought I had a cold. Had this kind of upper respiratory, slightly sore throat, bit of a cough. And I thought, oh, you know, that's okay. I can probably deal with that. At the time, we'd been told to self-isolate if we had symptoms. So I rang in and said I was going to self-isolate. And my husband came home and self-isolated from that time. And yeah, and then it just got worse.
that time where you know, if we cast our minds back to what the mass messaging was and the confusion and the sheer unknown that was clearly apparent in everything that we were being told. What does that feel like when you're in that situation?
Well, I remember feeling quite anxious in that week running up, because there were lots of messages coming out. It really taken off in Europe. And, you know, I was out and about in the community, and, you know, not everybody was accepting of that information, and everybody had different ideas about it. Some people didn't believe that there was anything to be worried about, and, you know, some people did. Agencies weren't really sure what they should be doing. So yeah, I remember kind of feeling a level of kind of creeping anxiety about, you know, should we be out there? Should we be seeing other people? What's going to happen? Yeah, and then yeah, I got it.
And there's, yeah, we both have that kind of the nervous laugh that comes from the reality of, you know, that situation is frightening, and, you know, I think we both laugh at those adversities in general, you know, even before COVID. So as people kind of see us laughing at, yeah, I got COVID, that's the dark humor of survival, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was not great. Yeah, the symptoms just got worse. Horrendous symptoms. Just kind of laid me out for a month. I couldn't work for a month at all. I couldn't really do anything.
What did that do to your kind of your own sense of connection to the people that you were working with before?
It was difficult. I mean, I knew I wasn't fit to work, but then there was that, I don't know, that responsibility, that felt responsibility towards those people that I was working with. I mean, I was able to email people and say, you know, I'm not well. I'm going to have to suspend everything. And everybody I was working with was really understanding, which was great. But then when I began to work again, I had to move online because, well, we were in lockdown. So, yeah, so we had to move online. And then there was that kind of conversation with some clients who really didn't want to move online, who wanted to still have face-to-face sessions, but that just wasn't a possibility for me at that time, because if I'd had to go out anywhere, it would have made it impossible.
Yeah,
I could work because I could work in my own home.
And the move to online, as you know, if we think, you know, 18 months ago, if someone said we'll have a Zoom call, most people wouldn't have known what they were talking about. Now, you know, Zoom has become a bit like Google. It's an adjective. You know, have you Zoomed everybody today? Did you Google that? It's, you know, it's, the technology has come so far and so fast, and that adaptability of the being has really been shown to be possible, where, you know, a year ago we fought against it. And I know as you're returning to work, the kind of process of bringing people back into the counselling arena, are you finding that as difficult as you thought it would be?
I don't think, no, I don't think so. I've had quite a lot of referrals lately. When I first started back, I've had to start really slowly. So I started with one client, and then I just built up gradually as my energy would allow, really. But yeah, I think people are much more open to remote working now than they would have been in the past. And like you say, I mean, this technology was existing already. And the only thing that had stood in the way of us using it as we are now was that, I don't know, reluctance, fear, fear of that change and what that would do, and whether the experience would be the same virtually as it is in the room. But I feel like that the offer is comparable.
Because if you think about it, when a client first moves to coming into the room, there is still a change from what they were doing before that. They've still got that discomfort of going into an arena that they might not have experienced before. So the psychological pathways are the same in the fact that it's about our comfort at what we can achieve in the arena that we're in. And I think it was a loaded question, and I hold my hand up, because a lot of professionals are just as fearful of moving to the online as at the beginning as they are about the process of moving away from online, because they've got comfortable with it. And it's that experience of kind of, we're all adjusting to the same storm. And that's parallel working like we've never seen it before. Sorry.
No, I mean, in my work recently, well, last year and this year, the issues that clients have been bringing about their anxiety, their frustration, their worries, their feelings about the government and the policies and other people. It's universal at the moment, so we literally are all in the same place. I'm no further on than anybody else.
Yeah, and this is, where I think the concept of parallel working that has been given to all professionals, and I include coaches that have been through really good training too, because it comes up there too. This is not parallel working the way it was ever explained to anybody.
No.
Is it? It's, we're not talking about a shared singularity of experience or connectivity. This is parallel working as you say, in a universal sense. And you've been through what COVID can do. And thankfully, you are in recovery and returning to work. Those clients who've only got mass message and their own anxieties, their own fears that are naturally fueled by it. How do you offset the experience to the perception?
How do you mean?
Well, I'll give you an example. hypothetical, okay? Client who has a perception of this is all media driven, this is all this, that, and the other. Sitting in front of you with that perception, but you have your experience.
Well, so I mean, that's first of all, you know, that might be relevant to the work that we're doing, or it might not be. You know,
that's key. That is absolutely key. I love the fact that you went there straight away, because their perception doesn't have to be relevant to the work, does it?
No. No.
We don't have to be triggered by what that perception is, even though our experience is something different.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, people come with all kinds of perceptions, and you know, before we have had this experience, people would come with all kinds of perceptions about other stuff as well, which may not kind of fit with my experience or even my values or principles. But that's their stuff, and if that's what they want to work with, then that's fine. We can work with that. But if it's not, then that's also fine as well.
And it's having that self-awareness not to get pulled in to the perception that makes the difference to the relationship at that moment in time, isn't it?
Yeah, because they've come for whatever it is they've come to work with, and that's my job, is to facilitate that work.
Yeah. And as you've experienced the kind of the anxiety of your own journey through that, you've done that in, I've got to say, something that I admire, that you haven't tried to do more than you physically, but neither of you tried to do anything that you're not emotionally or psychologically ready to do. Not being caught up in the cycle of I've got to get back to work for the sake of getting back to work.
Well, no, I mean, I suppose for me, my experience has really, it's given me the ability to focus and really listen to what's going on with my body and my mind. And yeah, that's kind of the gift that it's given me, is that I've become much more aware of my energy levels and where I use that energy. And so I'm kind of, I think I'm much more discerning now with where I use my energy.
Do you think that the impacts of what the pandemic has caused to you as an individual, but you know, to the wider family and then to the professional arena, do you think the impacts are going to be lifelong now?
I don't think anybody knows. That's the thing about it. I mean, we are literally in a period of discovery. You know, this is brand new territory for everybody. We're all learning as we go. I mean, the experience I've had and the changes that I've made, yeah, they're going to stay with me. It will be a lifelong kind of experience and sort of memory for me. It's not going to go anywhere. So,
it's definitely shaping the way that you're looking at the work balance. It's shaping the way that the family interacts. It's shaping, you know, these are impacts that I think will actually show the best of us. And that connectivity to our inner balance, and kind of listening to our bodies more and understanding what those messages are, I hope are going to be things that stay with us for.
Yeah, I mean, I
for the
hope
duration.
so. And I think, you know, that imposed the lockdown, giving people lots of time to think, you know, lots of time to reflect about life and how they want it to be. So maybe, you know, maybe people will make permanent changes, or maybe they won't. Maybe some people are desperate to go back to how they were before.
Yeah, and this is the thing with humanity, isn't it? And you know, we've made no bones about the approach that we as an organisation have taken, and the kind of thought patterns that we believe will help. The world is grieving for the way we did things in 2019, because in 2019 we didn't know that those ways of living, those ways of interacting, were going to die. But COVID killed them. You want to get crucial, you know, COVID killed that way of living, that way of working. And the thing with anything that's died, we have to grieve for it, but we also have to accept at some point that grief is there for a reason, and those things have gone. You know, we don't keep going to grandma's house after grandma's died. Once we've got past the grieving process, we get past that, and we move on with the lessons that we learned from grandma. It's the same process that the world is going. And if we can accept that those ways, that, let's be honest, in 2019, most of us were saying, this ain't right. These things ain't working. Why are we still doing these things? Why are we still looking at it that way? Why are we doing? Because we've never had time to work out what we needed to change. So when we've had time to look at that, we can rebuild the process. We can go, right, what are fit for purpose? And we can fill those gaps in that in 2019 we knew were there. And, you know, that's really where APA sits at some of the mental health systems and the responses, is we've got a huge opportunity now. We know so much more about the resilience of the species and the adaptability. If someone said in 2019, in a year's time, you guys will be doing this and it will feel like it's okay and it's normal, the person would have probably been locked up for being bonkers. Like, no, we're not going to do that. Why are we going to do that? Mother Nature comes on and says, idea. Do you think that there is now a new balance for the technology and for face-to-face work as we come through kind of vaccination processes, everything else? Or do you think it's too soon to be moving to a straight split like that?
Well, I think probably for me moving forward, there's definitely space for mix, because from my experience, I can work with people out of my geographical area, which I wouldn't have been able to do before. And, you know, getting back in the room with people, that's, I don't know when that will happen for me, but I guess it will come back, but at a pace that's okay for every individual person who's doing that. But I do remember earlier this year, maybe, I was at a webinar, obviously.
Yeah, we're not going to break protocols now.
Yeah, obviously a webinar. And the NHS, it was one of the IAP services, and they said that moving forward, that they think that 80% of their work is going to be conducted online, with 20% of the work being carried out face to face for those people who wouldn't be able to access online working. And I think there, I mean, as you know, I'm a great kind of advocate for accessibility in counselling. I think we need to, as a society, we need to think about how those people who can't get online, don't have broadband, don't have the devices, you know, how we're going to support them moving forward.
Yeah, and there are still areas around the country where they might have internet, they might have access to a laptop, to a smartphone, but the coverage doesn't allow for constant connection. It doesn't allow for, you know, seamless communication. And I think that has to be included in there. But we've also seen probably, you know, COVID has amplified the view on a lot of things. And this country has a huge tech poverty challenge, massive. And while we, you know, we look at accessibility, we've got to look at that as a component, rather than the isolation of those that simply don't have, but, you know, the access to what they do have, as much as anything else. And then you start looking at, what about the people that have zero connection to any of that? It's, you know, and that accessibility has been hugely highlighted. I do think there is a danger that our systems go, well, we'll make sure everyone's got a smartphone and therefore problems solved. And it's not that simple, is it?
No, it's not that simple. You know, you've got to make sure the response is appropriate to the need. And it's not about equality, it's about equity.
Yeah. And quality over content is something that has come up time and time again already in conversation here, in the series. Do you think that the world of therapy now is in a better place than it was in 2019, or do you think it's kind of still holding itself back? It's a tough one. It's on the spot.
Not really sure.
The lawyers have said any disclosure is opinion and not policy. What are your thoughts? Do you think as a sector we have become more accessible to the public, or do you think that things have got harder this year for the public to access therapeutic services?
No, it depends on the circumstances of the individual, doesn't it? You know, if you've got great broadband coverage and you're tech savvy and you are of a level of income where you can buy the service that you want, then I think, you know, that's great. That's fine. You know, there's ways you can find that help. There's lots of places online that you can find that help. If you don't have those, you know, in the work I do with unpaid carers, lots of those unpaid carers are elderly, and their first instinct isn't to Google. You know, they might be able to have it on their phone, but that's not what they think about. So I think there are a lot of people who are shut out of the world of being able to access counselling. And, you know, if you don't have the financial capability, then you have to go on the waiting list.
And that's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? That the go-to response is, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go on for a wait list. And when we think about the sheer numbers of qualified therapeutic professionals that are available in the UK, compared to the numbers that are recorded by membership bodies, almost a 50-50 split. We'll take 5%. But of those that are affiliated to membership, those that can actually work with IAPS and all of the amazing work that is done, it's reduced again from that kind of 100% of the 50% down to about 20% of professionals. So we're looking at the smallest proportion of the numbers available only being able to work with those in the most need. It does seem that that bottleneck is sector imposed.
I mean, it would seem so. I think there's lots of barriers in place for people, and I don't know whether they're financial or whether they're organisational, or where the origins are for them, but it would seem that that's the case.
Yeah. And it's frightening when we see that the entire country, 60 million people, are affected emotionally and psychologically by what we've been through, and the emotional and psychological support available through the system is whittled through a bottleneck when there are thousands of professionals available. We're talking about 20, 30,000 are able to work. And we've got a system where the therapeutic community has said, well, actually, we need to make sure that 80%, is whittled into the 20 to make the 20% bigger. It does seem counterproductive to me when you've got everybody already qualified. Surely it's easier to take the bottleneck off rather than try and force more people through it.
Feels a bit uncomfortable.
It's, when you've got people that are qualified and available, it makes sense to mobilise them rather than make them pay to go through the bottlenecking system in order to make them available to other people. They're already qualified to work with people. It does seem SeaWorld stopped making dolphins jump through hoops. But the therapy industry seems to be kind of going, hey guys, here's the hoop, jump through it or you can't work over there. That doesn't seem too smart to me. But, the experience that you've had, are you hopeful for the future?
I am hopeful for the future, yeah. I've discovered my own resilience.
That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. When so much has been put into the mass messaging that almost kind of lends itself to the hope being taken away.
Yeah, I mean, to survive is the greatest.
I'm really glad that you are. I mean, this would be a really expensive phone call if that hadn't been the case. And I don't think Zoom would have taken the technology to that level. But when we started, it's like, is everybody there? You never know.
To come through it and to feel like there is only kind of, I don't know, maybe improvement ahead. I don't know where I'm going to get to, but it's good to kind of come this far, and and to kind of be involved in part of the research that understands what happens next.
And that's going to be crucial, isn't it? Is that adjustment to that intelligence that comes through from that process.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of working with the long COVID team, and yeah, I mean, they're learning every day, as we all are. So yeah, hopeful for the future. Yeah, and I think, you know, we've all learned stuff throughout this last year.
And this is the thing that really gets me when we kind of look at the kind of messaging around education and all of this process, is somehow the messaging says education must have stopped and we've missed out and we're not going to get it back. We've lost all of this, but we've learned so much more than we would have without this. And like you say, the learning about our own resilience and our own adaptability probably far outweighs any CPD that could have been done.
Definitely. Experiential learning at its best.
Oh, yeah. You know, Mother Nature, she knows best.
Yeah. I mean, we've lost so much, but we've learned so much. You know, we've all lost, every single one of us.
And we can grieve that loss, but we can also take heart at some of the gains that have come from it. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing. I am so glad that you have. I just have one question for you.
Okay.
Right. Before we close, how much of your experience has reinforced your passion for the work?
Sorry, say that again. I just missed the end.
How much of the experience the last year has reinforced your passion for the work you do? Has it? It might have turned it all off. I don't know.
I mean, there was a point where I felt like, I felt like walking away. There was a point where I felt like walking away. But I get so much out of the work that I knew that wasn't a possibility for me.
That passion didn't, the flame got turned down, it didn't get turned out there.
No, it didn't. So it's just as much as it's ever been. So
that's great to hear. Great to hear. Well, so thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to touch base with you again. And I look forward to more conversations with you over as you feel fit. And that's the key, isn't it? It says you feel fit.
Yeah.
And
but I'm off for a lie down now.
I have this effect on people, ladies and gentlemen. An hour's conversation, everybody needs a lay down. So if anyone has gained from the conversation, if there's anything that allows you to improve and enhance the conversations that you have with clients, with those that you work with, there is a CPD questionnaire that will be attached in the description of the video. If you are an APA member, you can get that CPD certificate on completion of that questionnaire for free. If you are not an APA member, why not? Applications are being received, ladies and gentlemen. Please fill in full. But if you're not an APA member, in all seriousness, you can get that CPD validation, the administration charge. No extra costs. So thank you so much for everyone else. Now, take care. I look forward to seeing you on another conversation.
Thank you.